Good afternoon to all attendees so far. So we will be starting in the next 5 minutes. I just want to put the disclaimer out in the meantime.
Volma, do you have something to ask? I think there's a question.
No, I don't. Yeah. So, okay, I think that's it. We can, obviously attend with the proceedings. Welcome everyone to Wisco's webinar on employment equity, which is the second of a two-part series relating to BBBEE and employment equity in the workplace. It's definitely worth mentioning that yesterday's webinar on BBBEE was a great success. So thank you all. Thank you for all who joined. Should you wish to view the webinar, then please visit the COVID-19 Content Center website at supportbusiness.co.za. My name is Zahir Hendricks. I'm a portfolio manager in the Business Growth Services unit of Wisco, and I'll be hosting this webinar today. As some of you may know, Wisco is the tourism, trade and investment promotion agency of the Western Cape. Wisco has been collaborating with various private and public sector entities to hold webinars to share their expertise with the Western Cape business community. Today, and for the second time, we're thankful to be collaborating with Singer Solutions to provide this webinar on employment equity. The presentation will cover the Employment Equity Act 2 and the Employment Equity Act 4 submission compliance process and amendments. Asia Adams, I think it's worth mentioning again, manages and owns Singer Solutions, a level 1 BBBEE Black women-owned company rather. The company conducts BE and employment equity consulting. She's also the founder of a company called Alba Kukuri 4IR, which is also a level 1 BBBEE Black-owned women company. The company offers management and support services and training with unmanned aerial systems, which we mentioned yesterday was drones, in filming and videography, surveillance, border management, surveys, and 3D mapping. The company is a registered non-profit organization that empowers and uplifts youth from disadvantaged communities with skills for the fourth industrial revolution, including remote pilot's license, robotics, and artificial intelligence. So I know, Asa, you mentioned a few things about yourself and you added on to whatever I mentioned, so I'm not going to steal your thunder in that regard. So, yes.
I think you did a job, Zahir. No, thank you very much. Just, I think one of the things I'd like to add is that, people would like to know, well, what is she talking about? I just think it's the fact that I've been across industries, and that gives me sort of the marketing edge, because many people work in one industry and they're not exposed to me. So I'm grateful that I've been exposed to a few.
100%. No, definitely. And with that out of the way, Asya, welcome again for the second time, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for taking up your Friday afternoon and spending it with the Westgrow Group and I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to get into it so everybody can get to their braais and just like unwind for the weekend. I just want to share my screen quickly, if you don't mind. Can everybody see that? Can you see that there?
Yes, I can. That's perfect. Thank you, Asya.
So again, thank you everyone for joining. I hope that if anything that you take at least one or two things away from this workshop. I think that's who I am. That's what I would like to achieve. And employment equity is on our doorstep. Some of us have to submit manually, and that's now. I hope you guys are not submitting manually anymore, and everyone else has to submit online. If we cancel December and January out because it's the sort of the shutdown period, then you're literally sitting with now and November to finish employment equity. So I will start because I was so good yesterday to keep you my time and not talk too much. I will start. I think we've done the formalities of who I am, what we do. Just to add on as to what we do, Finger Solutions does employment equity. So we do the EA2, the EA4. We also do an EA13, which is the actual plan for those of you who know. And then I do an analysis and I tell you what the gaps are, and I'll go through it to tell you how I get to those gaps. And then we do a strategy, because the aim is not like, okay, well, how do we get rid of everyone who's not Black and put in everyone who's Black and then we reach our targets? That's not the point. Remember, it should always be sustainability for the company, but also something for the people as well, so they feel that, you know, they can grow. Where does the Employment Equity Act come from? It's designated groups. So a designated employer is somebody who's got 50 or more employees, or somebody whose turnover is from 6 to 75 million rand. Having said that, anyone and everyone can submit an employee employment equity report. So if I've got 5 employees and I want to do it, absolutely. The one thing is that it goes on to Department of Labor and the public register. So if you want a little bit of recognition and also to get some practice, by the time, and we all on your side cheering for you, you have 500 employees, guess what? You're into the swing of things, you already know what to do, and you've already started from the beginning. Okay, so basically it's just to say that it is the designated employees will be required to develop an employment equity plan, and that designated employees have 4 main obligations. They have to achieve equitable representation, women and disabled, obviously because they've been disadvantaged in the past, and the central mechanism is to achieve this objective through creation, implementation, and monitoring. When you say all of these things that's in the Employment Equity Act, there's different parts of the Act. So Section 17 will talk about consultation. Section 18 will talk about representation. And when you talk about representation within your organization, you're looking at the different levels. For those who've been in the meeting yesterday, or in the webinar yesterday, sorry, we had occupational levels. So normally you'd want the levels to be representative of each one. So somebody in semi-skilled, somebody in unskilled, somebody in skilled technical, and then you also want your union members in there, because union members would probably sign off on the minutes of the meeting when you're sitting in your Employment Equity Skills Development Forum, or just your Skills Development Forum, or just your Employment Equity Forum. Again, I just want to reiterate, people keep asking what's a designated employer. It's an employer who employs 50 or more employees, or an employee who employs fewer than 50, but has a total annual turnover that is equal to above the threshold, depending on sector, from 6 million to 75 million. So it depends on your sector, what your sector threshold is. Sorry, I just want to go back. The purpose, I think we've covered it. It's basically just to redress the past, same like BEE. So people always say, there's BEE, and then they refer to employment equity. BE, economic transformation. Everything to help designated groups or groups that have been disadvantaged to economically transform. Employment equity is to give people the added advantage, or to give people the opportunity to redress the imbalance of the past. So women, all women, they were disadvantaged in the apartheid. Disabled people, so it's all of that to try and redress the past, and that's why employment equity. Keeping in mind there were hardly anything like labor laws and unions, so people were treated badly, they were disadvantaged. If you look at something like what I'm doing now with the state-owned entity, I'm doing recognition of prior learning. I'm taking motor mechanics, I'm taking fitters and turners. They have 30, 40 years experience, never had papers, because that was part of the disadvantage when people couldn't move forward because it couldn't do their trade test. I'm taking them and I'm putting them through what they call recognition of prior learning. So they've got to prove to me they can do it. And then when they did it, they will get their certificate and their trade test. which means they will get paid more. Zahid, you must just let me know if there's anything in between people asking questions or anything, hey?
Sure, we'll do so, Asya.
Okay, and then there are a few amendments that I think are very important. This happened on the 20th of July. The removal of the requirement that physiological testing and similar assessments of employees by a certified health professional needs to be done. So you would have a hearing test when you maybe work in a mechanical environment. You will have a color blindness test if you're working with, let's say, electronics. I'm just giving examples, so it doesn't have to be a health professional. You can actually do it in-house and maybe get like a Specsavers to come in and do a screening. That's absolutely fine. Because remember, that also disadvantages. Maybe the companies don't want to pay for it, then they ask you to do it, and that's why people don't get it. The amendment of the definition of people with disabilities to align with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. You can look it up because a lot of people ask me, what is a disability? A disability in the workplace is something that is just a hindrance. It is not something that is that holds them back. So it's something that's probably a hindrance and a medical condition. I can be disabled and I can be the top salesperson because I don't have a speech impediment, but I might have an amputee. And then I can be disabled and then I can work with my hands, and then I've got an eye maybe problem, but my hands can maybe feel its way and I know how to do things. So it's not, people always feel scared. And the way we find this out is on the EEA1 form. And that's the form where you declare your race, gender, and disability. It is required. Companies don't check up on these forms. They don't bother to check if people have changed. I might have had a sex change in between. They don't bother to see if they've done any, if there has been a disability. Remember, we're living in a really tough society out there. People get hijacked, things happen, people pick up disabilities, you know, and it needs to be checked quite regularly. Just something to add on to your admin work, the introduction of provision allowing for numerical targets to be implemented for national economic sectors. So there's a section that has numerical goals and numerical targets. The one is from the year that you have, that you're doing your employment equity, the follow-on year. The other one is from the time that you're doing your employment equity plan to when your employment, full employment equity plan expires. And I'll take you through because I think it's better if I do something practical. Before, when you look at the targets, you know, you look at different levels and they're now saying, look at the targets so that it's representative of your actual sector. How does it tie into your sector and subsector? Before we took the EAP stats, the economic active population, and we just said, Sarah, this is me, please forgive me, I'm so sorry.
That's fine, Asya. I literally have my hand up to ask you a question, so don't worry about that.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm normally good at this.
That's okay, Asya. It happens.
Friday, excuse me. Yes, I'm listening.
I've got a question, Masad Asya. So employees with mental illnesses, will they also fall under individuals with disabilities as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Mental, physical, they're all mental, they're all disabilities. And they declare it. Remember, I can declare it to you, but if I don't have a medical certificate to back it up, it does not suffice. So you've got to have, I've been to the doctor. I'll give you an example. I had a guy who said he cannot travel. He's got a hearing problem. So obviously when he travels and because of the height, then something happens to his ears. Like got a, I don't know what it's called, sorry. So he's got a hearing problem. And somebody said, well, okay, we won't let you do it. And I'm like, no, you've got to prove it to me, you know, that you've got, so that I can say, okay, this guy doesn't have to travel. It's almost like an incapacity hearing that you're doing. So yeah, mental, physical, all. Keeping in mind, if it's so obvious that I have a disability, if I have a speech impediment, lazy eye, whatever, and I don't declare it, you cannot force me, sir. You can't.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Thank you for that answer.
No problem. So please look at your sectors more than what you're looking at the actual EAP, but I'll go in there. And then the requirement that employers' employment equity plan address the numerical targets refer in the above, sorry. So it means that you have to look at what is it that your plan is featuring or is targeting with regards to your sector. And I'll give you an example of an EAP stat. Let me just put it practically. I'll take a national stat. African males are on 35%. Colored males are on 23%. Indian males are on 7%, I think it is, and then white males are on 10%. Right? I'm taking national stats, and don't quote me on it. Let's just take males for now. Currently, I've got 10% African males. My 10% versus the 35% target, of which I got the target from Stats SA, because every quarter they release what they call the employment active population. That's where everybody gets the targets. It's not Kamsak, it's the employment active population, and they say to you, within that region or nationally, this is what you're supposed to be at, or this is your target. What are you currently at? That's basically how it's done. And this is what they're telling you that your numerical targets needs to refer to the employment equity plan. The empowerment of labor inspectors to secure a written undertaking from a designated employer regarding the preparation of employment equity plans. They're starting to get very strict now. Before, everybody just submits, nobody cares until either somebody at the company says something's not right at that company, or they just do random checks. It's not everyone that calls up and say you're not doing something properly. Sometimes you'll notice Department of Labor will do a whole region of just random checks. So they're in the region and they go door to door and they go like, you submitted your employment equity plan, this is what we're actually coming for. Now they're saying that Department of Labor inspectors need to secure a written undertaking from the designated employer regarding the preparation of employment equity plans, which means that it has become so much more rigorous after they've inspected you. They actually want to know what's happening all the time. They want to follow up. Clarification: where a representative trade union is present, a designated employer must consult only with such union on matters requiring consultation in terms of Section 17 of the EAA. So what they're saying to you is the Section 17 is the consultation. So they're saying that if there's anything separate to this thing, that the union must consult you in. But there must be clarification that this has been consulted within your minutes of your meeting. Section 17 talks about the minutes of the meeting. It talks about there must be consultation. Can I just give a live example of a bad consultation? Everyone has an amazing committee. The votes have gone out. If not, people can vote themselves. They can say, Zaid, I think you should sit on this committee. Perfect. Then the HR person comes in. The senior HR manager comes in. They run this training pretty much like I'm doing now. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm just talking. They come in, they say, 4 new people, 7 terminated, things are going well. Okay, guys, we'll see you at grab a cup of coffee. That is not a consultation, okay? It means that everyone in that room either doesn't know what their responsibilities are, haven't done any equity training, or they're too scared to speak up. The way it should be is that the person that's the equity manager facilitates the consultation, encourages the questions, any questions. So you'll say something like, for this month, we've now recruited 4 black males. How does everyone feel? And then somebody says, when are you going to recruit 4 females? When are there going to be more females in this company? You know, because if you just tell them, move out, give them the documentation, please sign a confidentiality agreement, it is not seen as a consultation. I've been in many audits where Department of Labor has come in, where there were findings on the consultation, where it was very clear that the people that drive this equity meeting is actually HR. Okay. The removal of requirement that employees with less than 50 employees. So before I said to you, if you earn between 6 and 75 million, even though this has been gazetted, I just want you guys to be mindful that I would still make a provision for anyone that is between 6 and 75 million, because I am not that confident, and I speak this under my own opinion, as the disclaimer says, that that is really the case, because I can't see our Department of Labor will say a four-man company, sorry, earning 500 million per year is exempted. I just can't see it. And I think it's the interpretation, and I've sat in meetings and I've heard guys say it can't be. So just to be on the safe side, I would. I mean, you're only 5 employees. I'm sure that'll take you absolutely no time to complete it. The requirement that a certificate be issued to employers confirming their compliance, the provisions of EAA, as a prerequisite of contracting with the state. So when you tender, you're normally given a BE certificate. You will see more stuff coming on the tenders. I don't know if you guys notice, and it's only because I do the EE, the work skills plan, and the BE that I notice from the tender side. They now want the scorecard of the BE. They now want the employment equity. So they want to see, yes, you are amazing. Yes, you are level 1 BE. But where is this all coming from? Like, give us a view of what it is. They're now starting to request it in your tenders as well. So, are there any questions to the amendments?
There's no questions so far, but I just wanted to mention to the audience over here as well that this is an interactive webinar, so please, by all means, you're most welcome to ask questions during the webinar as well. So please don't hold back. I might have a couple of questions myself going forward, Asia, but yeah, you're most welcome to continue.
Thanks, Said. We've been through occupational levels. I have a little tip that if you get this right the first time, you don't have to fix your work skills plan. You don't have to fix your BE when it comes to audit. It's the same level. Just get it right. And people say, I don't know where to put someone. If you look at the OFO code, so that's the codes that's given by education, the OFO codes, they put somebody higher and somebody lower. There's a simple explanation. The higher the codes, the more decision making I have. Okay, so let me compare quickly. A semi-skilled person and discretionary decision-making person. I'll give an example. Let's say a finance assistant. They capture the invoice, they use their discretion, which one they're going to capture first. They make that decision, okay? An unskilled person, they get the instructions. I want 1,000 boxes. I want it folded by this afternoon. No decision making, no how the boxes must be done. It is just there. Skill technical, we are now assuming that you have a level of knowledge. And we're saying, okay, we'd like you to complete this in this time frame. If you need help, come and call us, but they should use their own discretion in time, discretion in qualifications, discretion in skills they should use. And that's how you go up. Top management, they make the top decisions. Senior management, they feed decisions that they've made into top management. Professionally qualified, we're assuming they've got a team that they make decisions for or discuss with, and then they feed it to the senior managers. Find out where your decision-making level is, and that's how you'll get your occupational levels. Okay, I just want to take you through, Zaid, if you don't mind, I just wanted to, and I don't know if it's going to spoil, can you see that?
I can, yes. Yeah, I can see the E submission templates and the EA2 template in 4.
Beautiful. I'm not going to go through all the details, but just to give people an idea of how it looks. That's basics. That's who you are, which, how many people are in there. This top part, it says for which period. So for this case.
So yeah, so just to interject, are you perhaps looking at a form?
I am.
Oh, okay. So it's still on the PowerPoint slide.
Okay.
But up, so I think if you can just put that form up there, it'll
okay. Is it showing now, Zaid?
No, it's not. Still.
Okay. Let me just stop share and start to share again. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Okay, there we go. How are we doing now?
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. You can see that.
Apologies. So that
No.
was the first page, Saeed, which is called an EA2. You're quite right when you said at the beginning, Employment Equity Act 2. That's what they call this form. This form looks at the workforce. It looks at the workforce movement, terminations, recruitment, barriers to EE. This is what this form looks at, okay? This form is manual. This form is online. I would suggest that nobody does a form manual anymore. I think the last time I was at the conference, I think only 2 people in Cape Town were still submitting manual. It's so much easier. It's online. You know, it's user friendly. Do it online if you can.
Yeah. I'll ask a quick question. This form can be found on the Department of Labor's website.
It can. If you go onto Employment Equity Online, which is EE Online, it can also be found once you're registered. You can go into your account. It can be found there. But you can just Google EA2 and it'll download the template.
Perfect. Thank you, Asya.
No problem. So the first date is the date of which this form needs to be in, okay? So your date for employment equity is 1st of October 2019 until 30th September 2020, okay? That's your first date. Your second date is not for me to decide. Your second date was what your committee decided, what your company decided. So your second date could be 1st of October 2017 until 30th September 2020. If you're only starting now, it could be 1st of October 2019 until 30th September 2022. That's not the decision that I make, okay? That's your employment equity plan. Anything from 1 year to 5 years. If you haven't done it before and you're not sure, there's nothing wrong with year on year. It actually works if you do a year on year. Okay, they give you definitions there as well. This just goes through who the workforce is, why it's important to know who sits where. They want to know who's African colored Indian white male, who's African colored Indian white female, any foreign nationals, and that mix up. Somebody asked, we had a discussion, I think it was the first time we had the BE. How do you know when somebody sits under temporary? Temporary is not a casual employee. Temporary is not an independent employee. So casual employee can't work more than 24 hours. An independent doesn't get any leave, sick leave, doesn't get any benefits. A temporary employee can be anything from 1 month to 5 years. It could be contract aligned and they've got a 5 years, okay? Permanent is permanent where there's no end date to it. So you don't put your independent, you don't put your casual, it's only your temporary, your fixed term, and your permanent employees. As you can see, they don't have any level for temporary. And the reason why they want you to reflect temporary is because when you say, and you go further down, you say, well, I've got so many openings, you know, we're just growing and it's just going amazing. And they're like, okay, but what happened to all these people here? Could that not have been room for them to move up here? Could that not have been room for somebody in unskilled to move up here? Because promoting growth within a company not only helps the individuals, not only helps the corporate culture, but it also helps with the demographics trying to reach the EE targets. Much easier. Because we always say, I was looking, I couldn't find. Somehow we like to say that. We like to say, I was looking for someone, I just couldn't find them. Employees with disabilities, you indicate on here, keeping in mind that it has to be, the proof has to be the EA1. You use the EA1 and the proof when you do your BE report. Any recruitment, so you write your recruitment in here, period, 1st October 2019 to 30th September 2020. So you're like, Asya, but this is difficult. I took Zahir on for 2 months. Then I let him go. Then I took him on for another 3 months. It has to reflect. It's a movement. The minute it's a movement, it's a movement. It's not, don't make your life difficult to try and like work out some different thing. If your spreadsheet says there were 4 recruits in that month and it's the same person, you write it in. The reason why is because they just want to see where your movement is going. It's not to see that much how many. But if you recruited 4 white males, but yeah, when you look at your workforce profile, you already in a surplus of 10 white males, no females, then they're going to, that's the only way they look at it. And they're going to be like, why would you recruit 4 more white males when you've got a surplus of 11 white males there? It's very straightforward. There's nothing scientific that they look at your employment equity report. Any promotions, because remember, promotions can help with equity. You don't have to look out there. Grow people and then upskill people, and then you grow them, you promote them. I have a definition for promotion, and a lot of people are like, what is a promotion? I have one definition, and this is my own, please. My definition is, if you're not moving up a level, it's not a promotion. Because I can move amazingly in a technical field. I can be skill technical, and then I went from supervisor, and then I'm now taking over 2 departments, and I'm growing, whatever. My definition is clear. Unless I've moved on to professionally qualified, it is not a promotion. But that's my definition. So you can use your own. If you feel that is a promotion, great. I just feel, why would they put bands there if you're not moving up? But to me, it just made sense if you do that. Okay, termination. Anyone who terminated the same period. Skills development. It's not your whole skills form. It is quite clear who skills development is for. Skills development is for people that you are aiming to grow or is growing. Okay? I'm aiming to make Saeed head of webinars. So he will get onto this list because right now Saeed is a coordinator of webinars and he's going to be head of webinars. So he's already fulfilling that role, like acting in it, but I'm growing him. His training will go in there. Not my health and safety, not the fact that I went on, I don't know, sales training, but I am a sales manager. Anything that works towards the EE targets. There's your numerical goals and targets like we spoke about. One is for the EE plan and one is for the next year following on. They just ask about mentoring and evaluation. Please take your time if you have a committee to go through this. I suggest you have a very good consultation where I spend, so the way I do employment equity committees for companies, I set up 4 meetings per year. I add 2 meetings, one for skills development and one for employment equity submission. I have 6 meetings per year. Don't make it difficult. You don't have to fly them in, lavish lunches. Telecon, you can have a video conference. They can come and join. It doesn't have to be long. For this meeting, I present all the details. I let people look through it. But for this meeting, I let them consult in the boardroom and ask them, or in the room, and ask them, what are your thoughts on recruitment, advertising, all these things? Is it a barrier to employment equity? Okay. The chief executive officer has to sign it off, even though I'm a consultant and I claim that I'm so amazing at my employment equity. I don't spend jail time. Yes, you get jailed for any fronting, any fraud, any lies that you put on there. And then you get, so it's either jail or you get a fine. I think the fine is now 2 million. Sorry, I stand under correction. Or a percentage of your profit, whichever is more, or both, a fine and the profit. Okay. And that's basically what your employment equity report looks like. And then I'll just, if there's no questions, Saeed.
None at the moment, Asya. None at the moment. I think the facts and figures that you're pulling up over years is quite captivating for us and interesting. I think people are really learning and taking whatever you've been presenting on. So yeah.
Thanks, Saeed. think it's also Friday, so you're like, gotta move because people are like, I'm tired.
No,
The EA4 deals only with numerics. Okay, this is people's salaries. Now, everybody's like, I'm not going to put out my salaries out there. It's not. I am in unskilled, and then my salary would reflect as colored female earning 7,000 Rand per month. Now, 4 colored females earning 7,000 Rand per month would just reflect as a 28,000 Rand. That's it. Okay. Salaries go per levels. People aren't interested what's going on in your business on the employment equity committees or Department of Labor. They're interested in that gap, the CEO's gap to the unskilled person or the lowest paid person, the middle part, what do you call it, median or mean? I must get back into my maths. One of it, you have to give it. And then the average, that's what they're looking at. Because they want to see, are there gross, like, sort of gaps between everyone? And you can say, well, the CEO has all this experience, that's great. But are we really underpaying the lower staff and then we overpaying the higher end staff? So if you look at it and you think about it, maybe you're professionally qualified, your senior management and top management are earning billions, and everyone together for the year down here are like 200,000. So there's a gross gap in it. What do they look at? They look at any extras, your bonus, any cell phone allowance, because remember, most cost to company packages includes all of that. So they will say, you know, your cell phone is actually inclusive of your cost to company. That's full cost to company that we give you. So the monetary part is 7,000 Rand, but then my cell phone allowance is 500 Rand, and that makes up my cost to company packages. Just to pull on how they do it, how they calculate it. So they ask you for a number of employees. I'll give an example. So we have 2 African males, each earning, sorry, I want to rewind quickly. All salaries are calculated on an annual basis. So for example, I left midway. You're still going to calculate my salary on an annual basis because you're comparing apples with apples. Does that make sense? Same with temporary employees. I've only worked 6 months, but you're going to calculate it on a 12-month basis so that you can remember it's a level or it's a person, it's a temporary or permanent. So you need to calculate it on that amount for the year. So all you do is you put in a monthly salary, cost to company, that's what I do. And then you put in a formula and you just say times 12 and you put it in for everyone. This is the part that shows fixed and variable. Keeping in mind, not everyone has this. Your sales staff, your top management staff, maybe your senior managers, not maybe, probably, professionally qualified, and then maybe your skilled technical staff. So who of them are fixed and who of them are variable, and what is the total remuneration? Just so that they don't get it wrong. So an example, I only earn 15,000 Rand. My commission is like 700,000 Rand for the year because I sold an amazing equipment in wherever, and that was my commission. So obviously it's going to inflate. If you say 17 times 12 and then 700,000 commission, something's going to look wrong. And that's what they're trying to establish in here. So they're not being unfair. Then they ask you these questions. What is the average annual remuneration? So you put, you sort your salaries or your people, and then you say, now you don't have to worry about levels. Now it's just everyone. You sort them and you say from lowest to highest, and they say, what is the annual remuneration of the top 10%? So you work it out. If you're 100 people, the top 10% is 10. And then they say, what's the average remuneration from the bottom? So you look at your bottom 10%. What is the median? That's the one that I said to you. I don't know the difference. I think median is the average, and then mean is the gap. Please indicate, there they give it to you. The median is the middle. I was right. The middle value in a list of the payments. And then the mean would be the average that you're looking at. Please indicate whether your organization has a policy to address and close the vertical gaps. Let me give you an example. So not the Department of Labor is not like they don't know what's happening out there. I'll give an example. Saeed, you mentioned this yesterday. You said a foreign national company, and we talked about their BE. That same foreign
Yeah.
national company buys over 100% black-owned company. Okay? Their employees now belong to the foreign company. Their employees come at a very high salary, right? Compared to the foreign national company's employees. So the foreign national company's employees are earning not 2 times less. The reason for that is these employees that you bought over have a certain product knowledge. They only know, they're the only ones that deals with Mauritius resort. And they can speak 7 languages, an example. So you bought over a whole company with their salaries through Section 197. Then there will be a discrepancy. So now you're saying, how are we going to fix this? And you're saying, we're going to take our current staff and we're mixing the two and we're doing workplace learning. And when once they get to a certain level, then we're going to increase their salary all the time. So that you can say, or you can say, as a matter of skill and a matter of experience, this is what it is. So no, we aren't working on a policy. They want to know what is the gap, the vertical gap. Here, am I the lowest paid worker? Here's the CEO. What is the gap between us? So you need to work out what is the difference. If I'm earning 1,000 Rand and he's earning R1,000,000 a month, what is the gap between us? And then they ask you the gap between the highest and lowest paid. I think that's quite easy. Are there any measures? So it is quite an obvious way that your males are earning more than your females, your able are earning more than your disabled, and your white, male or female, are earning more than your black, which is African, colored, and Indian, or your foreign nationals are earning more than any other South African, then you've got to tell them what are the reasons and if you're going to get to close that gap. So I did Mercedes, and what Mercedes worked on was they had a German guy who came here and he basically was sent here to do a handover to take the company to a different level and go. So that's called a scarce allowance. So he got a scarce allowance, which means that once he set it up in the second year, he won't get that allowance again, or he leaves. So you can put that into your reply as well. And that's it. And then you close the loop, and then you're done. You've completed your EA4, and everything's completed. Are there any questions before I go any further, Zayn? Can you?
Doesn't seem to be. Doesn't seem to be.
Okay, I just want to stop share and then just go back to my screen, if you don't mind. Yeah, I think those were the questions that were on there. I just want to, seeing that we've got some time, I must do more webinars on the Fridays. I look how quickly I speak. I don't. I just
in general, yeah. In general, what you mentioned now is very, very, very informative, and I'm sure that our audience over here is feeling the same way. So a lot of the time when you venture into things like BBBEE and also employment equity, there's just certain aspects of government policy and also employment policy that doesn't get touched on often, and it's because the information around it is so vague. And I think that what you're doing, what you're presenting on now at the moment, is really informative, comprehensive, and enlightening. So thank you once again for that.
Thank you, Zaid. Yeah. I just want to mention a few things. It's that sometimes when these things are daunting, people don't do it. There's no sort of like, what is your agenda? Why are you doing it? It is to redress the past. But governments, Department of Labor, and I speak on behalf of them just in this section, when I speak about employment equity, they understand what's happening in companies, and they're not asking you, well, let's just change everything, take out all your skills. What they're saying to you is, we've noticed that you've got a whole lot of vacancies, but you've never recruited internally. You've never promoted. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there are certain ways you've never upskilled. Like you're always trying to look outside and saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. The employment equity results work skills plan results with scarce and critical skills, they all tie into one. And they're all trying to say, everybody's complaining about the same thing. An example, we don't have enough managers or innovative managers. What can we do? Can we speak to the CETAs? Can we pump money in it to say that they must now do management training with innovation? And that's how they're trying to tie everything together. Employment equity is ultimately the responsibility of the CEO. You can do the capturing, you can do the strategizing, I do the facilitating, I do training of the staff, but ultimately the responsibility sits with the CEO. He don't click on submit, don't do anything, speak to him about it, explain it to him. He doesn't have the time to be sitting in these meetings, but he needs to know what's happening in his organization as well. Okay.
That's really interesting, Asya. If I may, one would have thought that the HR department is actually like you mentioned before, is actually the onus sits with the CEO. Really interesting.
Yeah, I think HR has taken on that responsibility because it is human capital. But you need to know if there is fronting. You need to know if there is blockage. Remember, diversity brings skills, it brings creativity, it brings innovation. You can't have just guys looking at something, just females looking at something sometimes. It's great to go out and diverse, even age. You'll see, like, you'll have somebody who's been there for 40 years and then somebody who just came in, and the amazing dynamics that can come out of, and what it can start and what it can design. The CEO needs to know what's happening in his company or her company. I can do everything for them. I can prep them. I can take them through it, but ultimately their signature goes on it. And I always say this to the CEO: if you don't check it, you will get locked up. Yes, I do. I go there because I feel like it's only then that they realize, why would you want to lock me up when the HR person did it? I clearly have responsibility and I have to be accountable for it. Okay.
Yeah. Asya, thank you so much for that. Before I continue, I just wanted to check in with the audience. Are there any questions that you might have for Asya, or even for me from a Western point of view? Are there any questions that you'd like to have answered? If there are, please, pop away. You can unmute yourself. You can use the Q&A function. So please, I'll give it like, I'd say 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
I just want to say Vilma's on her own name today.
Yes, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Advice, I told her, put it on your own name.
No, exactly.
Zahir,
Yes, Vilma. I can
there
hear
I
you.
am.
Thank you.
I would like to know, this is only for businesses over the 75 mil a year turnover.
It depends, Vilma. It could be anything from 6 to 75 mil that you'll be an employer. It depends on your industry, on annual turnover, depends on your industry. Although government said that you don't have to submit anymore, having that big turnover, I would still go and find out if it is that it's in your industry that you need to submit, if you need to do it, because it is statutory for any designated employer.
Yeah, and tell me, Azit, if we start, say we have big plans, is it good to look at the form and maybe download it and fill it in and start growing into the whole look and feel of it, and then you know what's ahead, or don't you think we must do that?
Absolutely. If you have the time, obviously. You've got less people now, you've got more control over the company. And you mentioned yesterday that you're working with Westgrow. I can see you guys are going to grow in no time before it gets out of control. Do it. And then at a later stage, when it's too much, then you can obviously, people like me, I come in and I do the training and I submit the forms. That's what I do. But if you ask me now, go and do it. find out what they're asking, find out why they're asking. You know, there's questions in there that I think would be relevant to you. Questions like, do you fit part of a bigger group? Because right now, Vilma, you may be just doing the marketing on this side, but you're going to franchise out and you're going to know how all of that fits in as well. So things like that, I think, you know, are also important. And then salaries, it's quite easy. You'll be surprised maybe if you don't know everybody's salary. You haven't really collected all of that. You've got a payroll lady, and now you're looking and like, how can we pay somebody with 1 year's experience this, and we're paying somebody with 7 years? Do you know what I'm saying? It'll be quite amazing. Please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your time. And over the 2 days, I've learned a lot, but I'll be definitely Monday in contact with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vilma. Enjoy your weekend.
You as well.
Thanks.
Zahid, thank you for inviting us.
You are most welcome, Wilma. Anytime. Any questions you have from your side in any way, if you can support, please, you're most welcome. Thank you. With that out of the way, if there are no other questions, then I'd like to conclude. So, Asya, I just want to say thank you so much for your informative and comprehensive and 100% enlightening presentations that you know you've collaborated with us on the past 2 days. Thank you so much. And you know, with that, I hope that you know this allows for people to walk away with a wealth of knowledge regarding Black economic empowerment and also you know, employment equity. And I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot more individuals and organizations coming your way, knocking on your door, looking at how they can optimize those two functions in their organizations. Okay. So thank you once again for today. It is greatly appreciated. In the meantime, if you'd like to view these the 2 webinars that's taken place yesterday and also today that's been conducted, please visit the COVID-19 Content Center at supportbusiness.co.za. Everyone, thank you all for attending, and have a great day further. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, and thanks everyone.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye.